Hello and welcome to episode 16 of Injury Time of the Dynamo Football Book Club. My name's Al Bond and I'm joined by my co-host, Johnny Coughlin. What a lovely voice you have, Johnny.
Thanks, Al. You've a fine, okay voice.
Fine and okay voice. Well, that leads us in beautifully to what we're doing today, because we are doing a draft of football commentators, pundits, and hosts. Yes, Johnny, so we're making the perfect football show today. This is my idea. I lost confidence in it, but I've regained my confidence now. I think it's a good show. So we're going to pick a TV host, two pundits, a commentator and a co-commentator to make a perfect football show, i.e. like Monday Night Football. And then we're going to let AI decide who makes the best TV show. Johnny, have you got any lines, any favourite commentator or host lines from the past? What have you got? I'm putting you on the spot there. I can see from the pained look on your face.
Well, you see, the thing about it, Al, if this is to be a nostalgia factory situation, it's all going to be Ireland. I was actually just giving you the names of Irish television people that you never heard of. But yeah, George Hamilton he's still a commentator on Irish television. And he has said some really, really famous things over the years. When Dave O'Leary was stepping up to take the penalty to put Romania out of the World Cup in 1990, he said, "A nation holds its breath." And then O'Leary scored. So a lot of the really famous ones in Ireland that people would remember are Hamilton ones, really.
I have a very favourite quote, and I was looking for it today, and I find no record of it whatsoever. And if you just let me I'm sure I've probably said it to you before, but I can't identify the game, but it was on, I remember watching it. It was on Valentine's Day. I don't remember who the commentator, but the co-coms was Jim Beglin. And in my head, Spurs were playing up north. And the commentator's like, well, these Spurs fans have travelled up north on Valentine's Day. I hope their wives and girlfriends won't be disappointed. And Jim Beglin goes, well, I've booked my wife. Where's Jim Beglin? Oh, he's Northern Irish, isn't he? And he's like, booked him.
I don't think he is. Don't worry, your accent is the same for north and south of the border. Go on, continue.
Okay. And he's like, oh, well, I've booked my wife a table for after this game. Unfortunately, she doesn't like snooker. And I thought, it's my absolute favourite. Also, just referring back to that Manchester game, I sound like an American line, the United City derby. A big shout out to Phil Foden, who apparently is a listener and has listened to our Bad Barnets podcast and immediately sharpened up his haircut. Well done, Phil. You look much better. You do look like a nice young man now. Do you see his hair? He looked nice.
He looked very nice, and it helped cushion that header that he wafted into the centre of the goal for Man City's first.
Oh, it was dismal, wasn't it? Oh, Bruno, you don't want to do those jobs, do you? You really don't want to do them. And you're not going to do them. I simply won't do them, is what he says. I will not track the runner. I won't. I'm an attacking midfielder.
Is Bruno, this is hardly an original thought, but is Bruno the whiniest footballer of all time?
That looks like Freddie Mercury. Yes, he is. Oh, he is difficult to love, isn't he? Despite all his myriad talents, he's a difficult man to like.
Yeah, even as a United fan. And as you say, he is a rare shining light in otherwise grey skies in recent years in terms of the football. But by golly, he's hard to like. Jesus, he is the biggest whiner. Referees must hate that guy.
Well, he's just indicative of United's malaise. I mean, he has been, by far United's outstanding performer over the last 5 years. And he's still very difficult to love, isn't he? He's like, look at the rest of a shower of shit you've got there. Like, it's like, oh, I guess I like him the best.
What about Amad Diallo? How could you not like that kid?
Well, I guess he's the one, right? I mean, like, who else are you gonna like? Like, I mean, no one likes Joshua Zirkzee, surely. I mean, even his mum doesn't like Joshua Zirkzee. Just look at his stupid fat face and his horrible gun celebration. Ah,
Okay, so how are we doing this? The chances are we're not really picking from the same. Like honestly, I have a list. I have a list of names here, and they're all Irish. And then you said Jim Beglin, and I just jotted down Jim Beglin.
well, you can have him. That is the only other good bit of commentary he's done. Normally, just whines about Liverpool.
He has.
Oh,
He is the most ubiquitous football commentator. He shows up everywhere.
yeah, he turns up on US TV a lot. He does. Oh, I guess we can talk about that for a little bit in a bit. US TV. So NBC in America has the rights to the Premier League, and they have compiled the most boring people in the world. They're not offensive. They're just so boring. Like it's unbelievable who they've got. So the panel is Tim Howard, yawn, and then oh god, I can't even remember his name. He's so boring. He played for two Robbies, Robbie Mustoe.
Robbie Earl.
It's just, I mean, again, they're just not offensive, but oh, they're tedious. What is there to like? Robbie Mustoe and Robbie Earl do a podcast. I mean, that's one for getting off to sleep. Let's get those two lads on to talk about Man United's defence and get an early night's sleep. They are boring, lads. Really boring.
Well, Al, we've been ahead of them in the podcast charts. That's how boring they are.
I mean, genuinely, Johnny, I should fucking well think so. This is a better podcast than anything they could produce. They really are very dull individuals.
So you talked about Alexi Lalas during the hair one. Are there any that are like really, really offensive? Because the boring, okay, that's not very interesting, obviously, by nature of being boring. But are there ones that are like, because there is a fella I want to put in my team here who was just so offensive. But who is Lalas the most offensive on American television?
I'm reluctant to talk about Alexei Lalas now in case I get kicked out of America, like for insulting someone who's right wing. Like, this is the way it's going, Johnny. Like, I'll get ICE agents kicking down the door saying, like, you insulted Alexei Lalas, and I'll be thrown into some camp. So I'd like to retract that statement and just, I really admire Alexei Lalas and all his views. He's a wonderful man and a great football pundit. Really good.
Anyone else?
Nope.
I lived in St. Louis when I was a student for a year. And it was 2004, 2005. And I remember traveling to see Manchester United beat Arsenal 3-1. It was when John O'Shea did that chip, if I'm not mistaken, that was the game. And I had to get like 2 buses to this place to find somewhere that would show that match. And obviously at the time, United and Arsenal were riding high. That was the top of the table clash. But it just goes to show in 20 years, the change of football in America, eh?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, it's everywhere now. Ubiquitous. People talk to me about it all the time. Hey, you must love Ted Lasso. I don't love Ted Lasso. I don't love Ted Lasso. No. No. Have you seen that Wrexham show? Motherfucker. No. Don't get me going on Wrexham. Don't get me going. Don't.
Okay.
That's something I'd like to do one day, Johnny. I'd like to do the whole Wrexham thing, like, because, oh, mate, I get stuck into them.
But I do feel like I'm kind of cheating and kind of revealing my intentions or my cards here. But it is essentially just going to be the Irish football lineup from that was there for around 20 years. So why don't you? Well, how do you want to do this? You want to go?
That's fine, Johnny. Mine is essentially the English football lineup from Match of the Day from the 90s. So don't worry about it, brother.
Go on. So, and of course, Lynham was Irish, wasn't he?
I just learned that, Johnny. I just learned that today. Yeah, he was born in County Ennis. County Ennis, is that right? Or Ennis?
Ennis is in County Clare, yeah.
Oh, God, I sound like a fucking idiot, don't I? Don't worry about that, yeah. Born in Ennis in County Clare, Johnny.
Do you remember once when he was dropped out of the helicopter through the ceiling of BBC Studios? Did you ever see that?
There's Lynham.
I can't remember what it was, but they did this thing where it was some kind of, he had to rush to get to the studio, and then they showed him being dropped out of the a helicopter and crashing through the roof and then coming out from under this wreckage in the studio, but it was a dummy. But it was it was very funny. Do you remember? You don't remember that, no?
I don't remember that.
It might have been Challenge Annika or something like that.
Gladiators, ready!
All right, well, let's get started because he's my number one pick. I'm having him right from the get-go. So my host for my fantasy football show, not fantasy football show, but my football show in a fantasy world is Wynham Dynam Des Lynam. Just the very epitome of urbanity and suavity. Suaveness? Just so smooth. Like, well, they talk about like broadcasters, like they're talking to one person, he's talking to you. And that moment, I'll tell you, Johnny, it was 1998. I'm pretty sure it was against Egypt, the first game of the World Cup. Hello, shouldn't you be at work? Oh, Des, you saucy devil, I should be at work, but I'm not because I'm here with you. Fucking brilliant. That is like the greatest thing ever said on television. Shouldn't you be at work? Ooh, lovely stuff. Just absolute class, Des Lynam. And I'll tell you what else is interesting about Des Lynam. Nothing. Nothing at all. I've really looked up. There's just nothing interesting about him. Really not. He moved to Brighton at age 6. I used to see him well, I didn't go to Brighton a lot when I lived in Brighton, but I went a few times and he was always knocking around. I saw him.
Really?
It was a tiny little stadium in the time.
Was he a fan?
15. Yeah, a big Brighton fan. Which didn't affect his hosting, I would imagine, because Brighton weren't an ongoing concern. Just as a slight aside, I saw this interview with Adrian Childs, and he used to present Match of the Day too. And he said he just couldn't really effectively present Match of the Day if West Brom had lost. He was just too sad. And I really felt that. Like, I feel that too. I think I'd be terrible host. It's like, oh, let's just get on with it. Forest have lost that day. Oh, okay, whatever. Stupid weekends football. Oh, some big games in it.
The Irish equivalent to Irishman Des Lynam was Bill O'Hurley. And Bill O'Hurley was, I remember my brother saying this before, that in Britain you always talk about national treasures, right? That's the thing you're always drumming on about. But it was Bill O'Hurley who was the Irish equivalent of Des Lynam. And he is from County Cork and he has a nice Cork accent. And he used to spar with soon to be mentioned Eamon Dunphy and John Giles. Dunphy in particular, because Dunphy has so many famous lines, and I remember looking back at them when we did the Dunphy book. But O'Hurley was just very calm, and he would just kind of goad them and kind of draw them out a bit. It was really, really good. But he was such a lovely man. And there was this television show in Ireland called Naked Camera. I think it was Naked Camera. And it was kind of like a Beatles About kind of thing, you know? But anyway, I don't think it was particularly funny, but there was this one fella once who was being a taxi driver, and there was a hidden camera, and he was doing a really like thick working class, I guess, Dublin accent, and he was going, and Bill Early gets in the car. And he's like, urging that fella off the TV, that kind of thing, you know? And then he figures out who he is, and he's like, oh, can I just bring you to see my mother, you know? Can I just bring you to see my mother? And Bill O'Hurley is like, oh no, really, I can't, you know? And it's just so nice because Bill O'Hurley is so polite, and but he's obviously like, I do not fucking need this. Anyway, and whatever the comedian's name is PJ Gallagher. Anyway, he's going on, and O'Hurley is getting a little bit agitated eventually, and your man ends up getting out of the taxi at one stage, and Bill O'Hurley, he goes, when no one's in the car, he goes, what kind of a fucking agent have we got here? It's really nice. Anyway, but he was brilliant. He was brilliant back in the big discussions about Keane, when Dunphy was really losing his mind over this kind of stuff. There was O'Hurley was O'Hurley was really, really drawing Dunphy on. But I'll get back to Dunphy in a minute and O'Hurley, because that was fun. But he was also great. He was just brilliant. I guess it's the same in any country, you know. Watching your national team play is different than watching club football, because everybody watching it is in it together, right?
Yeah.
Every single person watching it wants the same thing. And I guess even more so in Ireland, like no one's watching Irish TV who's not Irish, you know. It's possible that someone would be watching the BBC and they're whatever, Italian or Irish for that matter. But yeah, he was so good at kind of taking the temperature of the nation, and it was really nice. And he was there for all the good years, which seem so, so far away now.
Joy, Johnny, yeah. Manchester United, an Ireland fan, yeah, you're having a tough time.
We had it good for a long time. But okay, so Bill O'Hurley, in he goes.
Okay, well, my pundit in my imaginary show is like genuinely one of the most significant figures in English football history. He made 600 appearances on Match of the Day. He introduced goal difference. He introduced 3 points for a win. He was the first person to introduce co-hosts into a punditry environment in the 1970 World Cup. He was an anti-apartheid campaigner in 1958. It's Jimmy Hill. I mean, this man is unbelievably significant. He's done it all. He's run the line. He's managed. He's played. He's been PFA chairman. He was PFA chairman when he was 29 and scrapped the maximum wage when he was 29. What
Right,
a
'cause
man!
this came up in the book of the fellow who went to the fellow who went to Columbia, who you hated.
That wet rag. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Jimmy Hill. Okay, a little bit before my time, but maybe, and such an entertaining chin, of course, famously.
Well, just an overall good egg. Had a lovely sense of humour about him. He was the first ever stadium with all seats, Highfield Road at Coventry. That was him. First electronic scoreboard in 1964 at Coventry. Jimmy Hill.
But when you say that was him, how did he didn't build the stadium?
Yeah, Bernabeu's named after all the people who fucking helped build it. No. But he was the man. He was the chairman at the time. He didn't build the stadium, Johnny, you dick. Like, but it was his idea. Come on.
I know. Okay, he was chairman. I didn't know he was chairman of Coventry. I didn't know he was chairman of anyone. Who did he play for? Jimmy Hill.
Coventry. A good egg. Although, in doing my research, there is a Jimmy Hill quote when he's trying to defend Ron Atkinson, which is so staggeringly offensive. I wanted to introduce all of my different pundits and hosts with a quote, and I thought this might be funny. No, it is unbelievably offensive, but have a look it up. And he's trying to defend Ron Atkinson. Good.
The racism.
Oh, good God. Good. It's wild. Anyway, other than that, Jimmy Hill, good egg.
Have you seen the thing that's been doing the rounds recently, which was someone posted it on Twitter or whatever, but it's from 30 years ago, where they bring all of the kind of great minds of football together to talk about the future of the game. It's maybe early 90s. It's presented by John Inverdale. David Dean is on it. And there's loads of people just sitting there, like Jimmy Hill is there, I'm sure, Terry Venables, all like loads, the great and the good of football. But Eamon Dunphy is on it, which is why I'm talking about Dunphy. But you haven't seen that, no?
No.
But Dunphy is kind of there to play. I can't remember the exact words he used in reference to David Dean, but he calls him embarrassing or something like that, because David Dean was kind of trying to give the perspective of like the club chairman's perspective. And Dunphy has been saying for years, I suppose, that football is just gouging fans. Dunphy does this piece on it anywhere where he's talking about what's happening, the state of the modern game in the early 90s and the way it's kind of just getting away from fans and how their ability to pay for things. But you imagine how he feels. Now, actually, Dunphy retired earlier in the year from his podcast, which he'd been doing for a long time, his own podcast, The Stand. He's 80 now. But Dunphy, when you talk about punditry in Ireland, you can't get away from Dunphy. And Dunphy was not necessarily universally liked. So whereas Bill O'Hurley, the fellow I mentioned earlier, the presenter, nobody could ever have beef with Bill O'Hurley. A lot of people hated Dunphy because Dunphy was, he's a real contrarian. And that was his thing. He would really be goading people. And he'd annoy you sometimes. He could be a bit obsequious at times, Dunphy, but he was amazing on television. Amazing. And when you talk about on Irish television, you get away with a lot more than you get away with on BBC or whatever Sky, because, I guess the clubs watch those things, but nobody cares what's said on Irish television. And I remember Graham Souness used to be on Irish television, and he would be a lot better than he was on English TV, although he was good on English TV as well, but he would just see, you could just get away with a lot more. There's a really famous Dunphy line where they're talking about, I think it's O'Hurley's referring to an article written by Rod Little. You know Rod Little?
Oh, I know Rod Little.
Yeah. So, and Hurley's like, I don't know who wrote this particular article. I think this is in the context of Keane, maybe. And Duffy goes, I'll tell you who wrote it. I know the guy. I'll tell you who wrote it. It's like Rod Little. He's the guy who left his missus and ran away with a young one. I think it was a young one, he says. Rod Little, I think at the time was only around, like he was in his early 40s or something. No, but just that he'd say this on television. You wouldn't be able to do that on the BBC, would you?
No, you definitely wouldn't. Although he definitely deserved it, Rod Little. He's horrible. He's horrible.
But don't feel be calling people a con and, like, this guy Ronaldo is a con. Turns out Ronaldo wasn't a con at all. He was actually quite good. Cristiano, that is. But Dunphy wrote Keane's first ghost was the ghostwriter of Keane's first book. But then he and Keane fell out.
Well, that's an interesting part of punditry, isn't it? There's a lot of pundits who approach it just from a world of hate. And this is not my in my thing, but say Steve McMahon, let's bring him up. Well, you and I used to watch him, and he appeared on football punditry in Asia. So when we used to watch the Premier League, we used to live in Cambodia. It was always Steve McMahon and Paul Parker, and Paul Parker was just a nothing, just a void sitting there. But Steve McMahon, he couldn't critique. It was just always personal, right? It's like, as you say, he's like, oh, he's a cheat there. He's lying to his manager. It's just like, oh, he just did some bad defending, Steve. Why does everything have to be from the perspective of hatred? It's like Gary Birtles when he manages Forest. Like, no one can score a good goal. It's always bad Forest defending, no matter what. Like, it's like, well, he's pinged that from 40 yards, but no one's closing him down. It's like, no, 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 no. Sometimes things are just good.
McMahon is just such a malignant character, as we've seen. Like in every single book that he's shown up, no one has ever said anything positive about McMahon, and about 10 people have said something nasty about him.
Yeah, literally, by all accounts, Steve McMahon is a wrong and awful
But
man.
even the look of him on television, that's the thing about TV as well. Obviously, it's visual, and he just has this. He's just sitting there seething. He's kind of got a seething presence to him. He just looks angry, and he's all curled up and ready to kind of just pounce on people with his big ugly red head. But essentially, Dunphy had just become critical of Keane when Keane was manager of Sunderland. Obviously, Keane can't be dealing with that. Dunphy later described Keane as a bitter man, which I think is fair. Dunphy was just brilliant. And the other thing about Dunphy, like he was so cutting, but he just loved John Giles, his co-presenter. He just loved John Giles so much. So Giles and him were kind of, they're on television together for 20, 30 years, but they'd also, like, Giles was playing for Manchester United when Dunphy went there as a young player. And he just revered Giles. And he described, he said, John Giles has the best football brain in the world. It's a Dunphy line. He just loved Giles so much. He was must-see television, which is not what you could say about Irish television coverage of football now. It is absolutely atrocious.
Yeah. Well, if you want to know more about Eamon Dunphy, check out episode 27, where we review his book, Only a Game. Yeah, he's definitely a character, isn't he? Who presents like football in Ireland now? Who are your like big pundits?
There's no personality to it. Like the analysts are like Richie Sadler, who you just can't get away from in Ireland now in football. Kevin Doyle, Stephen Kelly, who played briefly for Spurs. None of these guys are particularly interesting, I don't think. But maybe I'm doing them a disservice because I just don't tend to watch it now because I've just decided that I don't like them. And not that I don't like them, I just don't think they offer much in terms of. But that was the thing about Gary Neville when he came along, right? He seemed to say something that people hadn't been saying before. Now, I think we've probably all had our fill of Gary Neville at this stage. But initially, he was quite fresh, wasn't he?
Oh, he was brilliant when he came out. Yeah, he just needs to take a step back, right? Just less Gary is more Gary. We have too much of it now.
Does he just not sleep? Like, he runs a football club on top of the 7,000 other things he's on,
Yeah, he takes mini retirements, isn't it? I'm going on a mini retirement. It's called a holiday, you dickhead.
Well, for a mini retirement this weekend, for the long weekend.
Yeah, just chill out. You make everyone else look bad, Gary. Just relax.
I remember seeing footage of him coming out of one ground and he was getting on the back of a motorbike taxi that had been arranged and putting on a helmet. And this guy was going to speed him through the traffic to bring wherever he needed to be next. Yeah. It's kind of an exhausting kind of character, I think, Gary Neville at this point.
Well, I mean, he's a less exhausting character than his brother Phil. Who's well,
And he lives in that funny house under the ground. Have you ever seen Gary Neville's house?
does he in a little hobbit home?
It's like some kind of eco house but it's like got earth on the roof, exactly like a hobbit hole. This was 10 or 20 years ago. He's maybe since moved, but anyway.
I mean, like the Abbey and your hobbit hole, stay there.
But just on the topic of Neville, it's hard to mention Neville without Jamie Carragher. Do you like Carragher?
Yeah, I do.
What about when he spat at the moving car?
Well, the kid shouldn't be giving him lip, should he? That little girl.
There's been that moving car. There's just so many things wrong with that on different levels, you know? Did you see it?
Nanny got away with that, didn't he? I mean, he really got away with that. That was just like, you get a pass. I don't know. I do like Cara, though. I mean, I see a lot of Cara because he does the Champions League in the United States with Micah Richards and Thierry Henry. Yes, gravitas and sober reflection is the order of a day in that show. They are just shrieking idiots. But it is entertaining to watch. They're just going for social media, right? That's what they're going for. They want social media engagement. So you just get Micah Richards guffawing away and just clip it up and then, 1 million views on YouTube. I don't dislike them. I mean, it's just idiots.
But Richards is kind of likable.
Oh, yeah, very likable.
Yeah.
He offers no real football analysis whatsoever. He's just laughing away how his suit's too tight or something like. But he's a fun presence. Again, probably enough's enough. Like, no more Micah Richards. The amount of Micah Richards I've got now is the right amount. I don't need more of him. But I don't mind watching him. I like him.
I like when he said to Keane that he exploded onto the scene. And Keane was like, "Did you explode onto the scene?"
That's right. No, I remember he scored in, I think, an FA Cup game. And he swore. He was like, "Fucking come on," or something like right there. And he's like, "Oh, straight away, your first interview, you've dropped an F-bomb." Oh, but he was sweet about it.
Did I go first? Or you go ahead there. You have Jimmy Hill and you have Des.
Yeah, I've got Jimmy Hill. Yeah, and I'm going, another absolute classic 90s for my pundit. Tall, dark and handsome. It's Alan Hansen. Diabolical. Peace and power. 22 years, a match of a day. Just fucking brilliant, right? Brilliant. There's tactical analysis, pace, power. That's all he ever said, peace and power. But, he said it with such authority. I really listened to him.
But do you think he's most remembered for that line about Ferguson, right? Or United in 1995, 96, was it? When he said he never win anything with kids. When people think of Hansen now, that's what they think of, I reckon. But he was really good, wasn't he? Much better than Lawrenson.
Let's think of other things that are better than Lawrenson. Jimmy Savile, climate change. Yeah, everything's better than Mark Lawrenson. Oh, he's a grim old grandma of a man, isn't he? Like, and he always was. He was always 65, even when he was 35.
Not when he was outpacing the aging Kevin Keegan, he wasn't.
As I said, that was a sobering moment. Yeah. Hansen again, yes, he's most famous for that line. All right, then. Okay, so I had a look up controversy sections. Controversy. I've been in America too long. And all right, this is a line that Alan Hansen said at the 1994 World Cup. And see if you can identify why this might not have been a good thing to say. The game is Argentina versus Romania. The Argentina defender wasn't shooting for a mistake like that.
Oh, no, Colombia, no?
No, it was Argentina. But one day earlier, something had happened.
Oh, is that what happened? Because I thought he had actually said it specifically about Andres Escobar like the week before. But no.
No. Okay, so maybe that's the thing. No. So the previous day, Andres Escobar had been assassinated by the Escobar cartel in Colombia. And the next day, he's on commentating on Argentina versus Romania. The Argentina defender warrants shooting for a mistake like that. Like the producers are going, okay, just do your commentary. Don't Don't say that someone should be shot if they do bad defending, though. Make sure you don't do that. Like, I mean, just how does he? Oh, goodness me! Just don't say anyone should be shot in any of your analysis. No, you fucked it up. You've said nuts. He obviously apologised, but just brilliant, 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 Hanson. All right, who's your second pundit, Johnny?
Well, it's Keane. Because it's them, Duffy and Keane, it would be brilliant. They'd be, like maybe they would just sit there and not saying, they'd be isolating, not, acknowledging each other. But you would think that Duffy would be able to draw Keane out eventually, What Keane has done, again, wouldn't fall into the national treasure category because he's such a divisive figure. It cannot be stressed enough how much that 2002 Saipan incident split the nation. You would have seen it from the outside, but that one really, really went deep, and it kind of opened up a kind of a fissure uh, within Irish society that was just there for a very long time. People talk about it for years. It was like the Civil War or something, and it was kind of there were factors that would determine where you lay on this. If you're a Liverpool fan, you're generally anti-Keane. If you're a United fan, you're very much pro-Keane. If from Cork, you're going to be pro-Keane. So if you're a Liverpool Dublin fan, you might be anti-Keane, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not from Cork, but my parents are, and I'm a Manchester United fan. So my God, like this was the worst thing that ever happened. It was just so terrible. I remember there's this guy called Tommy Gorman, and he was on television because the whole thing was an extended saga. It didn't just happen. It went on for a couple of weeks because there was such efforts, like major kind of like diplomatic efforts to get Keane back in, and yeah, there's the famous footage of Keane walking the dog and all this kind of thing. But Tommy Gorman, I remember, he was on television talking to Keane. He's like, would you not do it? Would you not do it for the kids? Would you not come back for the kids? Think of the little boys and girls. But
Oh, I bet that swayed old Keano.
but I was 18 years old and I was sitting my Leaving Cert examination, so like the end of school examination in 2002. And football, like Ireland being in the World Cup, and we haven't been back since, was such a big thing. The Ireland-Germany game, which is the first game of the competition for Ireland, was on during my first exam, my English exam. And I said, what a disaster, And I was scribbling away I recorded the thing at home. I was planning to go home and watch it, But there was cars beeping outside at one point. And I was like, okay, that can only be good. And at one point, what do you call someone who supervises an exam, Al?
An invigilator.
Great word, isn't it? The invigilator walked around the exam hall with the score on a card. Ireland won, Germany won. It's like it really took hold of the country. It's just so exciting when Ireland are in any of those competitions. But anyway, getting on to Keane. What Keane has done kind of since, and obviously he's kind of showed a kind of mellower side to him. But what he's done he's done kind of cleverly, hasn't he? He's kind of cultivated a character, much like Partridge is a character. Keane has kind of got a very clear sense of who he is for television and for whatever punditry analysis, right? That he doesn't kind of take any shit, but he's also very funny, isn't he? And I remember reading this about him back in the day when he was this kind of big, heroic, kind of daunting figure, that he was actually really quite funny. But he is funny, but he's great on television. And while again, maybe there's a lot of these guys now, and they're really kind of pushing a lot of this stuff. I guess it's Gary Neville driven stuff, but because Neville just never lets anybody rest. But Keane is good, isn't he?
I know, I hate Keane being maligned, and I don't get it. I mean, obviously I don't live in the UK, so I don't see him every Sunday, but I think he's absolutely brilliant. I love him. I love his faux, stern thing, but then, for example, Maker Richards will be just, whacking on him his arm, doing his ridiculous laugh, and, Keane just can't stop himself from smiling. I really like Roy Keane. I think he's a great pundit. And, sometimes you do just need to fucking whack someone. I mean, that's what everyone in the crowd is thinking. Sometimes you just need to go through a player, get the crowd going. He's right. And they're like, oh, he's a parody of himself. No, he's not.
Kind of indulges Richards, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. And it's adorable, frankly, isn't it? You can see the affection for him, despite him being a lovable idiot. Duncan Keane, yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Duffy Keane with Bill Early, who's also from Cork. So there you go. I had written down Hansen actually, because I do remember Hansen being good. When did he stop, Hansen? Because he stopped quite young, didn't he?
Yeah, he's only 70 now. Yeah, he retired when he was like, yeah, late 50s. And why not? I always admire that.
Okay, well, I mentioned George Hamilton earlier. So just gonna stick with George Hamilton. If I said George Hamilton to you, who would you think of?
He's like a cheesy looking actor from the old days, isn't he?
I looked up George Hamilton lanes and it was like, I can tan quickly. What takes people hours to do, I can tan in half an hour. I was like, that doesn't sound like George Hamilton, the football commentator. Hamilton was there for all of those major sporting moments. You know, Robbie Brady brings us all to our feet and Leal comes straight out to McLaughlin. It's there. That's a famous enough one. McLaughlin has done it. You just see him running away, pumping his arms in excitement. This is a good one. These two are both good at. Real Madrid are like a rabbit in the glare of the headlights in the face of Manchester United's attacks. But this rabbit comes with a suit of armour in the shape of two precious away goals.
It's Rabbit comes in a suit of armour. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
And Ireland have got to contain the Baggio brothers. The Baggio brothers, of course, are not related.
It's Baggio and Di Biagio, right? Yeah, that would confuse me. Yeah, I've just got him up, old George. He's a funny looking little fella, isn't he? Like, God bless him.
But he's a cultured fella. He studied in Germany. He's a German speaker. He presents a radio show on Lyric FM, which is the classical music radio channel in Ireland, a show called Hamilton's Scores. See what he's doing there? And it's about classical music. Okay, that's George Hamilton. And you know,
Oh, you jumped in front of me there, bruv. So that's your commentator is George Hamilton, right?
yeah, well, you got to take him.
No. Well, I didn't mean to say no like that, but obviously no, because
George Hamilton, the actor, is who you were going for.
for my commentator, yeah, I am going for Gravitas, just as you are, Johnny. No Motti. I really had a long think about Jonathan Pierce, but no. Look at his face. Just look at his face. Is Gascoigne going to have a crack? He is, you know. Oh, I say, brilliant. That has to be the worst penalty I've ever seen at this level of football. Oh, you have to say that's magnificent. The Italians are out because they will not learn. Barry Davis, schoolmaster supremo, real gravitas, and an absolute antidote to the banterous wankers we have today. A banterous wanker I would like to be, in all fairness. Like a banterous wanker that I am endeavouring to be right now. But, Barry Davis, absolute fucking gold. He brought, Motti was good. There's other good commentators, but Barry Davis is the godfather of British commentary.
Clive Tilsley was good, wasn't he?
I like Clive Tilsley very much. Manchester United have reached the promised land. Will they score? They always score. But yeah, Barry just had that real authority.
And he was BBC.
Yeah, he was BBC. Yeah, and he stopped about 2004. So he's been retired 20 years. He's still alive, Barry Davis, I'm happy to report.
Is Motson still going?
No, Motson died. Sorry to tell you. Glad that Johnny Motson's death is so amusing to you. We were all very...
National treasure.
Yeah, national treasures. I like doing an audit of national treasures. Who's the number one national treasure in England now, Johnny? I'll tell you, it's Bob Mortimer. Without question, right? He is the person that people love the most.
He's such a lovely man, but it's surely Beckham. He's the one you love the most.
Yeah, but Bob Mortimer has no caveats. Beckham has caveats, but Bob Mortimer has no caveats. Just solid, good egg. Everywhere he goes, he's met with love, and
he's really nice. I listened to his audiobook, and did we talk about this before? There's a scene in it where he describes some kid was pushing around his kid when he was around 10, and he accidentally, as in Mortimer did, accidentally then later stood on the other kid's foot. And he gave it a kind of, he admitted to kind of giving it a longer little lean, not taking it off as quickly as he ought to have done, which I thought was quite funny.
yeah, Bob Mortimer, famous Middlesbrough fan, so it all ties in. Yeah, commentators is the one. There's a lot of choice. I mean, Jonathan Pierce really is fabulous. The famous Cantona quote as he went over the advertising hoardings.
He's the Robot Wars guy, isn't he? But his voice is just so goddamn annoying. It's hard to listen to that lad.
Oh, you think so? I kind of like him. He used to live on the street next to mine in Brighton, and I used to serve him in Borders. And I'm pretty sure he's the only of these people we've mentioned today who appears in an episode of The Sopranos. Yes, Johnny.
Sorry?
Yes.
Excuse me?
Aha, you don't know this, huh? So there is a shot in The Sopranos where Janice is at home. I can't remember who knocks on the door, but she opens the door and Robot Wars is playing in the background, and you can hear Jonathan Pierce's voice. And when I saw Jonathan Pierce in Borders in Brighton, where I used to work 20 plus years ago, I mentioned that to him and he said he was aware of it. So great story there, folks. That's a world exclusive for the Dynamo Football Book Club.
The other one is the guy from Hamilton. What's his name?
What? The guy from Hamilton?
He is a bellboy in The Sopranos for about 5 seconds. What's his name? Miranda, whatever.
Oh, is he? Yeah. I don't know,
Yeah.
but okay, fine. Oh, really? That's fun. Bit derailed there, didn't we?
I once saw Guy Pearce in an episode of Seinfeld. It's when Kramer does the AIDS marcher and he doesn't wear the ribbon, and he gets surrounded by a crowd of angry marchers, and Guy Pearce, the Australian actor, is there among the group. And then I checked it on IMDb and it wasn't there, but I looked on the internet and yes, indeed, Reddit confirms Guy
Oh,
Pearce.
that's pretty cool. Jerry Seinfeld's reaching like Morrissey levels of like godness, isn't he, at the moment? Shh, Jerry, just don't talk. Just drive your cars. The old situation in Palestine has not brought out the best in Jerry Seinfeld. Oh, you don't want to look. You don't want to look, Johnny.
I've seen before. I know I've said stuff in the past, but haven't seen it more recently. But do you know that Larry David is the person who introduced Cheryl Hines to Robert Kennedy Jr.?
Yeah, I've heard that, but now I won't be pictured with them. There is a famous picture of the three of them, and Larry David looks very, very uncomfortable.
Oh my God. Anyway, okay, we're kind of going off track here, but I mentioned him earlier. I'm going to just put Johnny Giles in as my co-commentator because Gilesy was the best. He was a real class act, such a lovely man, great singing voice by all accounts. But he was Keane before Keane. He was our best player ever. He played for Manchester United as a young fella, but he got drummed out by Busby and he went to Leeds, where he played for Don Revy's famously thuggish team. And I think Giles is known for being quite a thuggish fellow himself. But he came back to Ireland. He tried to make Shamrock Rovers work. He coached the national team, maybe as a player manager. He was great on telly. He was always looking for what he used to describe as moral courage, Bill. This is him talking to Bill O'Hurley. He was always looking for players, honest players, who put their foot on the ball and call for the ball when people were under pressure. But he was great. And he had, as I mentioned, in the words of Eamon Dunphy, the best football brain in the world. But he was great. He was a lovely, lovely man. Now he's old. They're both getting really, like, Giles is still alive, but he must be well old now. Would you be aware of Giles at all?
Yeah, very much so. As part of that Don Ravy team. Did he ever play abroad, Johnny Giles?
Well, he played in England.
Okay. I didn't mean that, but you know what I mean. Okay, yeah, no, I'm very, very familiar with him as part of that Leeds team. But yeah, I probably wouldn't recognise him if I saw him.
Well, he probably has the same hairstyle now as he did when he played in that Leeds team, because he never really changed it. But those two were just, well, those three, right? They kind of came as a set, and they were towering figures on Irish television. And that was those were the halcyon days of Irish football TV. They really were. I think Irish football supporters were either watching national football, like the national team, but also they would do the kind of Premier League for a while and the Champions League coverage. I think we always felt that we were getting a better coverage, better analysis than you get on English TV.
Yeah, I think that's probably a safe bet. I think I mistook Johnny Giles for John Charles, who plays the Juventus, right? I think that's... Anyway, yes, okay, so my co-commentator is called Alistair, just like me, and he spelt it correctly, Alistair McCoist. Maybe the most handsome man in the whole world in the 1990s. Was a beautiful boy, Ali McCoist. So good looking. And that little cheeky little face on him, absolutely lovely. He blotted his copybook by being on 363 episodes of A Question of Sport. Let's talk about that for a moment, just very quickly. A Question of Sport. Did you ever watch Question of Sport when you were a kid?
I used to watch it when it was in Botham, and Bill Beaufort, was that his name? Something like
Bill
that.
Beaumont.
Bill Beaumont. And then I didn't really watch it when it was that awful Matt Dawson. Jesus, he was insufferable fucker, wasn't he?
What a total twat Matt Dawson is. What an
He's still a Steve. He's a Steve McMahon character, isn't he?
but you see, that's it, Johnny. He's like, I really, really dislike Steve McMahon. I think he's awful. But just by the very virtue of Matt Dawson as a rugby player, he's worse. He's much, much worse than McMahon. At least McMahon played a proper sport, unlike that fucking twat Dawson. Oh, he's awful. Just the laugh fest. Like, just the absolute doctored, like screaming with laughter over the most innocuous thing. It was abysmal show. But I still came back for more. Oh, who's that bloody presenter? That woman, the posh tennis lady.
Yeah,
Oh,
talking about
God. Oh, what's her name? Awful.
behave here.
Just posh lady. Just posh lady. Here you go. Who should we get to present this? Oh, we'll get this posh lady and she can fawn over David Ginola or something. Oh, she should have been fawning over McCoist. So good looking.
I met McCoist when I was a kid.
Ooh, did you? Was he nice?
Well, yeah, he was lovely. I was walking down the street in Portugal on holidays. I must have been like 10 or 11. And I said, "Are you Ali McCoist?" And he said, "I am." I tore a piece of cardboard off something and he signed it, which subsequently adorned my wall, which is a bit funny because he was a Rangers legend. But there you go.
Yeah, he was a Rangers legend. That ties in very nicely, actually. Because he was such a beautiful boy, he actually had a shot at stardom in a Hollywood movie, A Shot at Glory, directed by Robert Duvall. Have you ever seen this movie, Johnny?
I have not. Robert Duvall. Turning his head.
Me either. Just, I mean, have a look for a clip because Robert Duvall exhibits the worst Scottish accent you'll ever see. And that's coming from me, Johnny. That's coming from me. Robert Duvall's Scottish accent is so terrible. Anyway, but in this film, Ali McCoy plays a young up-and-coming striker. He's not that young, but, you know, Hollywood. And he rises from the lower leagues in Scotland to play for Celtic. And it says here, in all the shots that Ali McCoy was playing in the Celtic shirt, he had a Rangers shirt underneath so the Celtic shirt wouldn't touch his skin. Lovely stuff. Yeah, I love
But he was wearing a Celtic shirt.
Yeah, he had a Celtic shirt on. Yeah, he was playing for Celtic in the movie. But yeah, at all times had a Rangers shirt underneath. The thing is with Ali McCoy, he just fucking loves it, man. And he doesn't just love the football. He loves everything. It's who are you saying? When he commentates with Clive Tildesley and they talk about like the cities they're in and stuff with real enthusiasm. Like, I actually like the world. I like culture. I want to embrace it. He's just a great example to the world, Ali McCoy. He's just a good egg. And he's called Alistair and he's super handsome. So we've got a lot in common.
Should we throw in an interviewer while we're at it?
Well, these are generally the people who do the interview are just the absolute dregs of society, aren't they? Like your Gary Cotterells, like
Jeff
Eric Ten Hag, Eric Ten Hag, don't bum me. This is a big team. This is a big team here. Like, oh, who do you think you are, Gary Cotterell? These absolute embarrassments. Oh, I mean, I know it's their job, but they just really demean themselves.
Well, the guy on Irish television again is Tony O'Donoghue. He's been on it for a very long time, but he used to have really great spats with Martin O'Neill. Martin O'Neill fucking hated him. He hated him. Like Martin O'Neill got us to our last big tournament, but we were just so negative and horrible to watch. Of course, it's been a downward spiral ever since, but we weren't to know that at the time. Before O'Neill became the Irish manager, I had an idea in my head of him being, you know, charming and funny and all these things, but he was nasty enough, fella, and he was so nasty to Tony O'Donoghue. Anyway, O'Donoghue has now started asking similar questions to our current manager slash dentist, Halgrimson. Oh, baby. Anyway, yeah, Tony O'Donoghue's great.
He's a funny one, isn't he? His kids went to my school, old O'Neill. He's someone my father claims to know, although I'm sceptical of that is. But yeah, O'Neill and Keane came to Forest for a spell, and it was an unmitigated disaster. It was probably the worst manager we've had, and we've had Chris Hughton and Gary Megson.
The worst.
Oh, it was pretty bad, dude. It was pretty bad. And as you say, it's like if you're losing football, but when you're losing football and playing just garbage football, like from the 70s, it was awful to watch. Didn't get results. They were men out of time, right? It was just a man out of time. 90s O'Neill, smart and sharp. Current O'Neill, very interesting about murders.
Go on.
Well, he's a murder buff. He loves all that stuff. He likes researching into unsolved murders and stuff. I think he's an interesting man, O'Neill. He's got hinterland, like, for sure. He's not just a football man. He's interested in other things.
Just by dint of being a Northern Irish Catholic that played for the Northern Ireland football team, which is not what most Catholics do. Like Conor Bradley is one recently who's decided to do that, but it's generally not the case. All those fellas like James McLean, Shane Duffy, Darren Gibson, those fellas are all from Derry. And
are they? They're Catholic? No. Oh, I didn't know that.
see, if you're from the island of Ireland, you can carry an Irish passport. By the same token, I think I could play for Northern Ireland, but obviously no one ever does that. It never works the other way around.
No, sure.
Neil Lennon and Martin O'Neill are two Irish Catholics who played for the Northern Ireland football team. I remember I also studied in Northern Ireland briefly, and I was in Belfast and I went into a pub and there was a Northern Ireland game on and they were watching the Republic of Ireland, which was an earlier kickoff before the match in Belfast that night. And they were not supporting the Republic of Ireland. I didn't know that until I was in the pub, that was a thing.
I mean, were you identifiably from the Republic of Ireland at that point?
By opening my mouth, I would be. Like, I went up to order something and I was kind of like whispering it.
You see, if it'd been me behind the bar, John, I'd have had no idea. Like, hello, friend.
You didn't pick an interviewer?
Gabriel Clark. I can't get excited about Gabriel Clark, but he is an interviewer.
The problem with this ChatGPT stuff, sometimes if you give it options, it would say this, but also maybe that. It's not very definitive a lot of the time. Your lineup is called a polished BBC ensemble, according to ChatGPT.
Well, it's not fucking wrong, because it is. It's the Match of the Day lineup from the 90s, pretty much.
Professional, polished, easy on the ears, feels like Sunday afternoon on BBC, one with a cuppa, okay? And then my lineup has been described as the fiery Irish soap opera. Oh my God, that's even worse. Overall vibe, electric, dramatic, occasionally deranged. I take offense to that. Like watching football in a pub where everyone has a pint and opinion, including the barman. Verdict, if you want insightful analysis, soothing tones, and top-tier professionalism, go with Al's team. If you want drama, fireworks, big opinions, and unpredictable telly, I know what I'm going for, Al. I know what I'm going for.
Johnny, I'll give you that. Like, you want the fire of the unpredictable telly. Yours is the lineup, Johnny, and you win this.
Oh my God. Oh my God. And this, I think, is worth 2 victories in the series, right? That's what
I didn't fucking say that. No. Oh, you see, I give you an inch and you take a yard, didn't it? I've been magnanimous. I've been a good man about it.
Okay, well, does this actually count in the series? I hadn't even thought about that until now, and there's some gain to be had. No, we will exclude this from the football series. So it remains 5-5, Al.
Okay, fine. But you are better at picking footballing television lineups, and I'll give that to you.
I don't know if there was anything involved other than just picking the stuff that was on the Irish telly when I was a kid.
And all there was there for me. All right, well, next week we're going to be back with, it's up here somewhere, The Miracle of Castle de Thingy, Sangare. Not Sangare, place in
Castel de Sangro is a great book.
Yeah.
I've read it before. I think it's out in my post box as we speak.
Well, I'm starting it right now. Yep, if you're listening in England, I'll just let you know I'm going to go and sit in a rubber ring in a pool and read it. Oh yeah, not all bad in America. All right, well, Johnny, pleasure as ever, and we'll speak to you all next week.
Cheers, buddy.
Thanks.